Hi, are we ready to go?
I'm ready to
Yes,
go.
sir.
Should we start, or is there another commercial that's going to play?
No, I think others are logging in.
Okay.
No, so everything's set. We can start.
Okay. Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. And I guess we've got a very fundamental topic today to discuss on the grassroots development of golf. You know, what we need to do in this country to build the base of the pyramid, all important question. And I'll quickly, I mean, most of my panelists need no introduction, but I'll just run through anyway. Of course, Arun has been there on virtually every panel as either a speaker or moderator or observer. And he's the principal architect of the show, along with another principal architect, Indrajit Bhalotia. But Indrajit, of course, is also better known as a very accomplished coach and heads Pro Touch Sports in Calcutta, has been running golf academies in Calcutta for probably more than a decade now. Romit is based in Delhi. So Romit is the president of the Professional Golfers Association of India, as well as the founder of Romit Bose Golf. And of course, Tarun Sardesai is joining us from Bangalore. Hi, Tarun. Tarun runs the Tarun Sardesai Golf Academy at Zion Hills, about an hour outside the city of Bangalore. So good, we've pretty much got the country covered, I think. And we hope to, what I'd like to do, I'm going to ask a basic set of questions, which I'd probably like each of you in turn to address. So rather than, there's no doubt that we need to grow the base of the pyramid. I think that we don't need to debate that point, right? When you grow the base, then obviously you elevate the entire sport by increasing demand and the number of golfers. So let's not, labor on that point. Do we need to do it or not? I think what we need to do is to figure out, where are the opportunities and what are the challenges that we face, and what can we do to actually increase the numbers at the base? Is it mostly talking all about juniors, or should we also talk about adults? We have a peculiar problem in this country because some courses are overcrowded and there's no space for new people, right? But there's other courses which are terribly underutilized, right? So there is capacity to grow and hopefully generate demand. So, with that in mind, let's address the problem, that we have, that yes, we need to grow the sport, but what are the challenges facing us and how do we go about, overcoming those challenges? So that's going to be the basic question for all of you. I'd like to start with Arun, and of course that will, lead us to other points of discussion. And please, if somebody wants to make a point, just raise your hand and, you can say something even out of turn, no issues. And then of course, we'll take some questions from the audience at the end. And you can put those questions in the chat. Yeah, so Arun, why don't you start? Let's talk about the challenges we are facing. What are the opportunities and how do we overcome?
I think the real challenge is the number of people who play golf is very, very limited. If you don't increase that number, it impacts every facet of golf, including media. I mean, when we complain about media coverage not being very, very good, we have made golf into a certain amount of isolation. We have grown in isolation and we have kept it restrictive and we have kept it elitist. So there are 2-3 things which need to go. One is the elitism. One is it's an old man's game. And what is also more important is that not only people should play, people should become aware of the game. It is not necessary that you become a player. I mean, at least you should start understanding it. And I'll take an analogy with cricket. Cricket is a very, very complicated game. Or for example, basketball is not easy to understand for people who don't play basketball. But cricket has been simplified because of various reasons. Maybe there was better TV coverage, maybe there was better popularity. And once it got simplified, you suddenly saw people playing golf in every way. In my personal view, it is a fallacy that golf can be played only on an 18-hole golf course. And to give you an example of Japan, I think, is the second highest number of golf courses in the world after US, something around 5,000. But they include 2-hole golf courses in their statistics. So golf can come in all shapes and sizes. There should be resort courses, there should be 18-hole courses, there should be championship courses, there should be normal standalone facilities where people from areas who get intimidated by golf, they can also come and learn the game or at least understand the game. So I think the basic challenge is to create this awareness and create smaller things into places where you are scared of going. In fact, I think the trouble is, if you take NCR, for example, everyone thinks NCR has got great golf courses and it has got great golfing population. But if you look at a golf courses which came up in the NCR region, in the satellite towns, they have always been challenged for business because people don't want to travel that far. So these challenges are lesser in smaller places. The distances are lesser. Affluence is going up. I mean, I think you're talking about demographic advantage of this country. 50% of the population is less than, I think, 40 years old. So you're talking about demographic advantages. You're talking about increasing affluence in smaller towns. With COVID having come in, people working from homes, a lot of them are techie who've gone back to their smaller towns. I think there's a market there and which needs to be tapped. And you can only overcome it by creating a huge amount of awareness of the game. And just to add one more thing, GIA, Golf Industry Association, commissioned a study, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and they did find some encouraging signs. I mean, they did find that golf was growing. But the point is golf growing as much as other sports, or is it growing at lesser pace? So that is something which we need to address.
No, that's a good point, that obviously the opportunity is quite great now in tier 2 and 3 cities. And probably we're sitting at a very good time in history. And, I'll quickly shift to Tarun to hear from him, because in Bangalore, you have this, you have this problem where the courses that are outside the city, they don't have enough people coming to the ranges and playing on the course, especially on weekdays. And then you've got the city courses like BGC and, KGA that are just, they're not even letting kids play these days. I mean, that's a shocking truth. But I'm told that today the KGA are not allowing juniors to play on the course. I mean, my mind was blown when I heard that. And, I think it needs to be the other way around. We need to throw away the oldies and reserve tee times for youngsters, right? But anyway, Tarun, maybe you can tell us a little bit about, the interest that has arisen because of the Olympics. And, what do you see as the opportunity, especially in your area in Bangalore, and what are the challenges we're facing? How do we overcome? I think let's try to focus on solutions. We know there are challenges, but let's try to figure out what are the solutions.
Yeah, I think, just to take what you said forward, I mean, kids don't get to play today. It's pretty sad. Can you really blame the golf clubs? I don't know, because they're also got a huge membership who also wants to play. And then you have these kids coming in and, although they may be the next stars of the game, don't find a place to play and, eventually, of course, are leaving the sport. But I think grassroots, I think growing the game at the grassroots level is great. But I think, honestly speaking, I've got a different approach in my head. I would work from the top down. If you see what Aditi did for golf, just by playing 4 rounds of golf for the Olympics and almost winning, I've got some 20 phone calls from parents of young girls who say, can we get them started? I'm talking about girls and boys who are 4 and 5 years old, right? I'm not even talking about, and the adults obviously are following suit, because, you get your kid playing golf, the parents will obviously always kind of attempt to play the sport as well. So I think what we need to do is we need to create more superstars. So I think the overall development of the sport in terms of developing champions has to be looked at first, right? You've got the badminton federations looking after badminton and the BCCI looking after cricket. Why don't we work from the top down? Let's create 10 more Aditis, 10 more Anirban Lahiris, and 20 more Shubhankar Sharmas. And then suddenly everyone's winning, more youngsters are winning major championships, or there's more visibility out there. And then kids are obviously going to have more idols in golf. Today, we don't have that many idols, in the sport. Now,
so Tarun, I just want to interrupt you with a question. If we get so much interest in the golf and so many kids wanting to play, where do they go? Is there space for them?
Yeah. So funnily, there is space. It's just not in the cities, and I think people need to learn to look around a little bit. And of course, parents need to be willing to also kind of make that little effort to find that that space for the kids to go out and practice. Like where we are at Zion Hills, or even if you know of the new driving range in Bangalore called To The Tee,
Yeah.
They've built a fantastic 25-acre facility, which is open to everyone. And I think we need more facilities like that, all over the country.
Yeah.
But the grassroots is suffering. There are lots of reasons. One is, of course, you have facilities, a lack of facilities, but then also you have a huge lack of good teachers and coaches, right? I mean, you look at the system in its entirety, has to be looked at, because, if you don't have kids who are getting better, who are enjoying their training, who are, they stop playing after a while. So the attrition rate today, I think worldwide, is almost about 60-70% for kids between the age of 13 and 17. It's because they just aren't enjoying the sport anymore, and they're not getting good enough. But funnily, every kid who starts the sport, by the time they're 9-10 years old, they want to be the next Aditya Ashok or next Anirban Lahiri. The problem is that how do we keep them playing the sport? How do we keep them progressing? And how do we create more superstars? In my opinion, what Aditi has done, if we can keep doing that every Olympics, you will have 10,000 more people jumping into the sport. So let's look at how we can develop the next generation of champions. And of course, I know I'm speaking from perspective of a coach here who wants to see more champions out there. But I really believe that, we can work the top down here, because, we've already got a whole bunch of players. We've got a whole bunch of juniors, beginners, intermediate players, adults, and kids alike. What can we do to help them, achieve their dreams and goals, right? Facilities is for sure, coaching, funding. I've not seen any program in India yet for golf that's fully funded, right? Why is that? So somebody needs to come in there. I think the IG needs to look at this seriously and say, hey, you know what? How can we get maybe 200 crores put into the development of the existing golfers, so that we can have Olympic champions and more Olympians out there who will then be the idols for all these kids? Because I know today all the girls want to be the next Aditya Ashok. All the 5 and 6 and 7. I had a 4-year-old kid come to my academy. He hit a good drive on the first hole and says, you know what, Paris, I'm coming. Right? He's 4 years old, but he's thinking Olympics. Right? So, I think for me, Rishi, that's where I would look first. We've got an existing pool of golfers. What can we do to help them? And then the grassroots, I think, will be a spillover benefit of creating those ideals and, those superstars.
Got it. So what you're recommending is that, and it makes a lot of sense, that if we have superstars, naturally it's a pull effect, and that'll just pull kids into the game and pull interest into the game.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody wants to be Virat Kohli or the next Yuvraj Singh. Cricket is huge.
So
right?
I will come back once I speak to Indrajit and Romit. Once we hear from them, then we'll come back to Arun, because Arun can shed some light on, what efforts, who can actually go about, growing the sport, like what you said. Is the IGU going to go out and get some money from the government, or how do we go about, expanding the appeal of the sport? So Indrajit, I know you have. You're in the city center now, so to speak. Tollygunge is in the city center. Royal is, pretty much in the middle of Calcutta now. You can't say that they're out of town. And you've got a problem, I think, with a range and an academy that's, spilling over. Am I right? So tell us a little bit about what you see happening in your city. So much demand for, kids coming in, and how are you going to handle it? Is there something being planned where you can grow and accommodate more kids?
More than the city, Rishi, I just wanted to make a couple of points about growing the game. I think golf in India is always going to be an aspirational sport, and it's going to be very, very tough to make the game very popular. Now, the main reason is if you look at the golf courses, I think 99% of them are private clubs or they're army clubs. So restriction in, if someone wants to start golf, I think there are only 3-4 public courses in the country. If you can count them on your fingertips. Couple in Delhi, maybe the Hyderabad, which is a semi-private, semi-public course, HGA. And there may be, I'm not too sure, but I think it'll be less than 10.
Definitely.
Out of the 300 or 400 golf courses. Most of the golf courses that are built in the country are all high-end, either with a real estate or with a huge budget, which are very private kind of clubs. Access to army clubs still are very, very limited. So today, if you want to play golf, how do you play golf? Unless you have a lot of money. So golf is not a rich man's sport. It's made into a rich man's sport because today you can't play. Even if you want to be a member of Tolly, you have to wait for 14 years now. You want to play you want to be a member of Royal, you have to probably pay 15 lakhs to become a member. So Delhi Golf Club, I think, is 25 years wait list, something of that sort. So
Yeah.
today, where do you go and play golf? I think the only way we can make this game a little more popular is to have driving ranges and, like AK sir said, to have little golf courses, not very expensive ones where people pay and play. In America, you can go and play on a golf course in Washington. I remember went with a friend and paid some $10 to play a round of golf. It was just like a park.
Right.
Not a great facility, but you could just go and play. So unless we have opportunities, there is no chance of this game growing. Where a club, which is a private club, can accommodate 200 juniors. After that, where do you go?
Yeah.
So that,
No,
I
that's-
think, is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge, especially in a city like Calcutta, which has really only 2 courses, and then there's one army course, really.
Yeah, so there is a course in Eco Park, but I don't think it's really picked up. People are scared to try golf because people think that, okay, my son will go for 3 months, 4 months, then where does he go? So,
Correct.
I get questions like, after 6 months, where does my child go?
Yeah.
And honestly, even I don't have an answer at times, because after 18, the kid has to spend money to become a member, unless he's brilliant and he's top 10 in India or something, and he gets some playing rights in Royal or somewhere else. He has nowhere to go after a point.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's a challenge, especially in a city like Calcutta. But probably we'll come back. Arun made the point that the big cities may be very difficult, but maybe we have to look for the growth opportunities in tier 2 towns, or cities that have the capacity to absorb more golfers. So let's move now to Romit. And Romit is sitting in Delhi NCR, and he's the only smart guy who's sitting on a golf course, it looks like, at this time of the evening, right? So Romit, tell us, fortunately in NCR, we now have, we have a public course. There's another public course being built. Gurgaon has 2 absolutely top-class, world-class driving ranges with, like one has 90 bays, one has 40 bays. It's actually, paradise in terms of comparing to, most other cities. So what do you see in your area? Do you see a real interest now? A lot of kids coming into golf, and what are the challenges to, get more of them in and retain them?
Well, Rishi, where I'm sitting right now, I'm sitting on a public golf course, which is Kutub Golf Club right now. I'm sitting here only for the fact that I'm extremely busy. And I came out just for this 1 hour because I've been booked from the morning, 8 o'clock. I've been at the range, on the course, and again, going back over there till about 9:30. So
Right.
the thing is, and it's packed. There are about, I think, 40 odd bays, and this chock-a-block full.
Great.
The thing is, this golf club is ideal for what we're talking about here. It's like the right mix.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening also in City Fort is we're coming up with a 50 bay driving range, which is a double tire. And
Okay.
also, as you know, Phil Ryan is building a 9-hole pitch and putt, which is world class. So I went and saw it, walked around. It's got huge greens, 2,000 square feet greens, big bunkers, all the kind of undulations that you need to practice short game, pitch and putt, 60-yard shots, 80-yard shots, something which is great for public to come into the game. So I think there are opportunities, there are places where people are actually investing and getting into the game, to get into the sport. And I believe that it is picking up. We're a little slow, of course, like everybody over here mentioned. Not everybody is a member of a golf club. And that's the biggest restriction, because a non-member, where do they go to play? Because if they have to go to Calcutta, there are 2 membership golf clubs. Where do they go? In Karnataka also, everything is membership. You can't go and just walk into Eagleton. You can't just walk into KGA. Or Bangalore Golf Club. You can't do that, even though those cities are vibrant in golf. They're like bursting at the seams with golf, but new people cannot enter the system. So here we need to create much more of these standalone facilities. Definitely, like you said, tier 2 cities, get them interested, because a lot of people from tier 2 cities come into Delhi now. And Skyline, even Harmony, I wouldn't say they're tier 1 completely, but there are a lot of other guys coming and playing the game. They're coming and learning the game. And we are actually getting a lot of good junior golfers, even, as you said, adult golfers who are coming in, who've been sportsmen in their life, given up basketball, cricket, active, They've been through their jobs. They're about 30, 35. They're coming to the sport and supporting the sport, which is great. And so I think there's a lot of interest. And like Tarun said, after Aditi, we need to introspect what we can offer. Number one, how can we grow the game? Like you say, hashtag Grow Golf India, which I keep using for a lot of my posts on various social media. My main motive is to figure out one green fee for a child golfer in India. Why do I have to pay 2,000 rupees on the weekend for a child to play on a golf course? Why do I have to pay a 400 rupee entry fee into a driving range just for a guy to hit balls? Forget about the coaching fee, which is exorbitant after that. I mean, that depends on the level of coaching he wants. But there needs to be a program in every single golf club with open arms, welcoming juniors to come in and play. Not only juniors, maybe adult, maybe ladies who want to join the game. But this is what we don't have. So if you actually put a white paper in and actually take a note, which I've been doing, of which clubs actually have programs and do let people come in, you'll find that the number is very, 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 very minuscule. There are not many clubs. If you even go to Chandigarh, not everybody can go into a club. That's why they use CGA, because that's a public facility. Everybody can go in over there, practice, play, whatever. So that's why Chandigarh has been producing a lot of these new kids. And where do they play? They play into junior tournaments. So there are about 12 of us doing junior tournaments everywhere. And those become the playing areas for these kids. They don't get to play a regular round. They don't even know where to go. So there are 6 tournaments in a month now by different junior operators. And the kids use those as paying green fee and competing with other kids. That's exactly how they're playing the 4 balls. So there is no club. Like when you and me grew up in Royal Calcutta Golf Club, we used to have junior golfers can book a tee time on that diary that we used to have. And we used to write over there 12 o'clock on Sunday, and they used to say, okay. So that was the respect given to a junior golfer at that time by Royal Calcutta Golf. I remember that very distinctly in my memory. As a junior member, I used to get priority, not even priority. I used to get prime time if we put in our names on that diary, on that register. And that is something, like you said, everybody should book some tee times for outsiders. Yes, I know membership is very crucial for every golf club and stuff like that. But why not? Like Zion Hills, where Tarun is, they can say, okay, we have 3-4 balls every weekend for junior golfers. Come and book, or some new golfers. If every golf course starts something like this would promote. I feel that it would promote. Over here, you called me also as a president of PGA, which I took over this year, for the simple fact that this is exactly what I wanted to do, Grow Golf India. The project that we've embarked on at the PGA, I'll share it with you, that we've been passed and approved by the board now. One is we've gone into education completely, not only for teaching pros, but also for club managers, club fitters, stuff which are ancillary to the game. There are a lot of guys over there who are in travel media who don't know anything about golf. We are creating areas where they can come and learn. So that is one thing we are doing. We are making club fitters. Today, there are only 5 club fitters in the country. 5.
So Romit, sorry, can I just ask, because this is an excellent initiative that you announced, what the PGA of India has embarked on. So where can somebody go to get more information? And if somebody in the audience wants to join one of these programs, how do they do it?
So what we are doing, we are putting together, we've put in chapters everywhere. We've got a Telangana chapter, we've got a Gujarat chapter, we've got a Karnataka chapter, which is comprised of top teaching pros, basically. So what they are doing, they're going to manage a squad of 9 people each. So they're going to play against each other every month and mentor those squads. It's a PGA mentor system, basically. So besides the education system, we've got a PGA mentorship system where even a club manager, a guy who's running maybe a booty golf and country club, is managing his own squad. That's how we are planning it out. So this whole thing has been now passed. It's going to be implemented in another 1 or 2 months maximum. So we'll actually see a lot of growth in small cities where, you can be in Maharashtra. There's a small 9-hole golf course, which a guy called Ranjit Kakkad uses. Okay. We can have 9 kids coming out of there, and they can compete with the Maharashtra boys or the Pune boys, or, so there's a little tour that we are planning also. And this is all Texan Scramble and 9s format. So like Arun said, we're doing it in 9-hole formats. So we don't need an 18-hole golf course. We're not going into 18-hole golf courses. We need only 9 holes. And it'll be just a 9-hole for these kids. It'll be Texan Scramble, basically a mix of alternate shot, Texan Scramble, and team play, 4-ball, better ball. So that is the way we are formatting this over 2 days. And I think it's going to be very encouraging for a lot of kids to be mentored by the PGA members everywhere, and this is what they can give back to the game. And they've willingly agreed, all of them, So we're putting in something. It's a self-sustainable system. We'll go out looking for sponsors, but in the meantime, we don't really need it. it's a self-sustaining model, because junior golf also has money coming in from the people who are actually coming into golf. So it's not that we need funding, and we can always put out for someone who's underprivileged or someone who needs it, someone who needs help. We'll put out that money for them.
Right. No, that's great to hear that initiative, and I'm sure everybody in the audience would like to support that system as it develops. And I think this is something that needs to, be inclusive. The more people that get involved in it, the more, it can take off. So, the all important part about funding and, obviously there's one problem which you've identified very, very pertinently, is that it costs parents an arm and a leg for their kids to play on weekends. On weekdays, they've got school anyway, so it's difficult to play more than, say, 5 holes in the evening. But weekends they're paying 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rupees green fees, which is a bit sad. But let's talk about funding for actually growing the game and helping produce more champions. So Arun, you've had great experience in this area, working with Sports Ministry, SAI, with the IGU, etc. Do you feel there is actually some sort of pathway that can be opened up now with the government to actually start releasing funds into golf? How difficult is that going to be? Is it possible?
It is not, if you're talking only about mentoring few people, something like a national squad,
right?
Government, the Sports Authority of India, government through Sports Authority of India will give enough funding. But sometimes what happens with golf is that we tend to be disrespectful about other sports. We tend to think that a wrestler is less of a sportsman than a golfer. And we tend to focus on the peripherals. For example, a government official will always ask, why is a golfer has to stay in a 5-star facility when other sportsmen can stay in Sports Authority of India hostels? Just a small example.
Sure.
So you got to be realistic about government funding, because government is not in the business of elitism. The government is in the business of spreading sport and whatever they have to share it among different sports. That being there, ultimately they will share it with all sports, and wherever, like for example, Aditi has brought golf into the fore, so government will be more conducive to it. But let me also tell you this, that few years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, when Mr. Injeti Srinivas was the sports secretary, golf was in the priority list. In the last Olympics, when Anirban Lahiri had gone, golf was taken as a medal sport. It is not that golf was neglected by government. It is a misconception, because we suddenly think we have this disdain for politicians, we have this disdain for bureaucrats. A lot of them are not golfers. Golf is a slightly differently complicated game. So is basketball, so is cricket, so is everything else. None of the games is less complicated than golf. But we have this disdain that what will this bureaucrat know? Unfortunately, reality is that the bureaucrat you have to explain it to the bureaucrat. The reality, tell you some statistics, while we may be doing very, very well. I think, if I'm not wrong, in the popularity index, golf is 26th in India. And
by what parameters?
In the popularity statistics.
But popularity is measured by what?
This was done by Harish Bijur.
Okay.
In which he said about the awareness among people. It ranks 26th. I think it was also with numbers, and it was also with number of people.
So maybe awareness, yeah.
Now compare it with another game which is equally elitist, tennis. Tennis was also played in clubs. Tennis ranks, I think, number 6 or number 7. While I agree with Tarun that we need to have certain amount of top-down approach, there you need role models. But at the same time, if the role models are few and far in between, they will not have impact on growing the game. You need ultimately also a bottom-up approach. You need to make this game inclusive. And what Romit was saying, I agree with him. You got to make the formats interesting. If you keep doing the 72-hole stroke play for 9-year-old kids or 10-year-old kids, they will burn out very soon. Only few will remain.
Yeah, so, no, there's no doubt about it.
And there's enough literature to say that unless you make it fun for kids, kids don't last.
Sure.
Roger Federer being the biggest example, actually. So,
all the parents and the kids of champions, that say that you've got to make it fun, and that's how the kid stays interested. And the point right now, which I wanted.
Sorry, let me come back to another point. When we talk about bottom-up approach, I don't think it's so much about funding. It's about attitude. What Romit and I think Indrajit also said, it's about attitude. You want to be welcoming new people rather than creating barriers. So when you have the so-called elite clubs, they serve a purpose of networking, they serve a purpose of having golf there, having championship golf courses, but they also act as barriers to introduction of game to the new people, whether they're adult, whether they're ladies, whether they're this thing. You take hockey, for example. Hockey, despite winning the bronze medal, has lost some popularity in India. But if you take women's hockey, it has gained popularity because women have suddenly found an avenue to express themselves. Golf can similarly focus a lot more on women, for example. It's a very good game for women. And by women, I don't mean that they should be only for the upper crust who can pay that $4,000 or $10,000. It should be included for ordinary girls of this country. That's how hockey for women grew. And that's how cricket grew ultimately. It was a Maharaja's game.
Right. No, there's no doubt about that. I guess what we're trying to figure out for the audience is there a policy already in place with the Sports Authority of India and this Ministry of Sports, which the IGU can tap into to release funds under an existing policy? We're not talking about trying to convince politicians to give golf more money than other sports. I think that's unrealistic. Golf has to fit into an existing policy.
So I think I was not clear when I talked about golf being the priority sport in the last Olympics. I don't know about this Olympics because I was not involved with the government that time. But when golf was taken as a medal sport, so which all were the sports that time? Athletics, hockey, wrestling, boxing, golf, and I think one or more sport. The moment you come into the middle prospect sport, you have a higher allocation in the top scheme. Scheme, you got to be included in top scheme. Now, where you have, and they were included in top scheme. So the trick is to get people like Aditi into top scheme. Also, the trick is to have the parents and Aditi or anyone else for that matter to bear with the bureaucratic process. You got to be at it. It takes time. It's slow. You got to provide documentation, etc. Unfortunately, our top professionals are so busy in playing their schedule, and it's also a lucrative schedule. So they sometimes lag behind this. But TOPS is the scheme which is available for any medal sport, and TOPS is about individual. Like Neeraj Chopra was a TOPS athlete,
right?
And so are other medal prospects. So people have to go to the ministry and get these people into TOPS scheme.
So is this done by the individuals or is it done by the federation?
See, federation has to definitely coordinate, but primarily the Sports Authority of India has a say in this. They have a TOPS cell.
So the individual should approach, like Aditi's parents should approach directly. They don't have to go through the IGU.
No, they don't have to, but IGU should help. Right.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand the mechanism so that, tomorrow somebody can pass the word to Aditi's parents, because probably they don't even know.
Top scheme comes into the Olympic year, and it's always meant for the next Olympics. So it's a 4-year cycle.
Right.
And when you come into the top scheme, the individuals apply, but federations help.
Right. And obviously, you have to show your credentials. So it could be Aditi, it could be Anirban, it could be other people, and they have to show why they're a medal prospect.
In Rio Olympics, they were approved 30 odd lakhs. Right. Unfortunately, golf has a culture of prize money. So when you're given a prize money is given to you immediately after you produce that result.
Yeah.
Whereas in this particular case, there was a lot of bureaucracy, and the 30 lakhs, I think they only got 5 or 6 lakhs, but it was approved for 30 lakhs for them.
Okay. But that is just an individual. It's a very narrow scheme, but it's good to know about. Yes. It's good to know about. But are there schemes where the government is supporting other sports at a grassroots level, like hockey, promoting inter-school hockey, or giving money for districts to pay coaches to bring more kids into hockey? Does the government have those kind of grassroots schemes as well?
See, there is yes, they have. There's only one federation in India which really does an all India level inter-district, that is athletics. And please understand, athletics is headed by Adil Sumariwala, who's a former Olympian himself.
Right.
And Rishi, since you have been a former champion yourself, it will be instructive to see some examples from athletics into other sports.
Okay.
Angel Mary is the designated president for the next president. She's
That's
again a
great.
former Olympian, world championship bronze medalist. She declined the presidency for 2 years. She asked them that she will not be able to take it because she had some personal commitments. So athletics has at least shown some way that some of the top Olympians are not so hungry to occupy a position of visibility. I won't say position of power, it's position of visibility. Athletics is the only one which does inter-district at all India level. But every other sport, most of the other sports actually, do state, and states do inter-district. Unfortunately, in golf, state associations are paper bodies.
Right.
They do not have a district representation at all, because in golf we think that the golf clubs are enough to promote the game of golf. And just now what Romit was talking, and I think Tarun also mentioned the same thing. In many ways, golf clubs are restrictive for very valid reasons. It's not that it's not a criticism, for very, very valid reasons. They have pressures of this. And where I was saying that you should go to tier 2 towns, etc., you go to Bangalore, there's a BML golf course in Kolar, empty. Why can't it be played by beginners? I mean, every golfer does not have to play in a manicured golf course. Every cricketer in Bombay did not play in Brabourne Stadium.
Right. No, I mean that's a good point. And I just had a question for Indrajit quickly, because in Calcutta, besides the two, the main clubs, RCGC and Tolly, there's the Fort William. So have you, Indrajit, and is that makeshift club in the Maidan still operational, which was called the Ladies Club, which was kind of is that operational, Indrajit? You have to switch off your mute.
Yeah, it's very seasonal, Rishi. So the ladies golf club is normally in very bad shape unless, that December, January, February months where they kind of look after the course. But there is a driving range and a 9-hole course by the Fort William inside the race course. So
is it? Right.
Yeah. So that golf course, it's basically run by Fort William.
Right.
But because it's outside the army premises, they're a little more open, and the Bengal Golf Association is doing some activities there. So that is one option. And Eco Park is there. Eco Park, I don't know exactly what the status is now, but Eco Park is a private driving range with a few holes.
Yeah.
So those two are there. The Ladies Golf Club really doesn't do much at the moment. And of course, Fort William is there, but I think the access is a little restricted there.
So, Indrajit, have you ever approached anybody in the army or had a conversation about?
Yeah, so we are talking. See, Bengal Golf Association is now pretty much handling most of the golf for the army. So they are basically we've been talking to the race course, and we do a few events there. It's very basic, but it's a very long 9-hole course. There are a couple of par 5s which are 600 yards. And it's very basic, but it's nice. And the driving range, there are some issues where you can't cover it because, the VIP helicopters land. They have their challenges, but overall it's a decent place. And I think that probably will be another place other than Eco Park where somebody in Calcutta can go out and play.
So somebody has just posted, Prateek Puri has just posted that Eco Park is operational. So, we were discussing it. So it's good to know that it's operational. And this is great news about a driving range and a short course inside the race club. I think, that's an untapped area of using the middle of the race clubs. There's been some talk, I know, in the past that...
it's very similar to Guindy.
Right. Okay. So they built a proper golf course, is it?
It's a proper golf course. Like I said, there are a couple of par 5 which are around 600 yards. So it's a long 9 holes. It's not a short 9 holes. It's a long.
Nice. Yeah. There's been talk even in Bombay at the Mahalakshmi race course, which is right opposite Willingdon, about building a driving range. But for some reason that has not taken off. But that's a good possibility that in other race courses around the country to open driving ranges. I think that's a great opportunity. Could be in Bangalore as well. They've got a fabulous race club, in the heart of the city. Some other cities as well. Mysore is the golf club. So, is there any golf in the race club in Mysore? Arun,
yes.
Anybody know? Tarun might know.
Yes.
There is. Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so that's a good way. But just because we are getting so many kids coming out of the army background, like Shubhankar, Anirban, they're all from army background. So at the army courses, are they at least encouraging their own officers' kids to come and play? Because they don't open it to civilians, right?
I'll answer that.
Okay.
See, defense courses have got a peculiar thing. One is, of course, restriction of civilians for various reasons. And mainly it's because of exploitation of government land for commercial reasons. That's the basic problem.
Sure.
But golf courses in services are officer sport. So
Right.
leave aside civilians, they do not allow their own Jawans also to play. You
But
may
do
have
they
one
let the
or-
officers' kids play?
Yes, officers' kids play because the membership structure is just like Delhi Golf Club. If
Okay.
you're a member, an officer is a member, so his son or daughter can become the dependent member.
Right.
So
Okay.
they have that advantage.
They have that. Well, I mean, if anything, at least if we could get 150 army kids playing in every army golf club, that would still, throw up some talent, right? So,
Certainly.
I mean, have any of you had experience with maybe proposing such an idea to the army? Romit,
Yeah, I've
Tarun?
done that. I went to the ASC golf course a few times, and but I think they made it very clear that it has to be approved at the center, and then it comes down from there. So they had no real power to take any decisions as such.
But are
Just to
you-
take forward this. Sorry.
No, sorry. Are you talking about allowing out civilian kids in or allowing
No.
officers'
I was
kids to play?
talking about just starting a development program for the army kids,
Oh, okay.
right? Which of course we would run. So
Right.
there would be a small commercial aspect to it.
Right.
But it's purely for the army kids, and we were looking at very subsidized coaching rates, but just basically having a coach there who can kind of, develop the interest in the sport. But I think, taking forward what the discussions have been going also, and, we keep talking about growing the game and, growing the base of players. There's still no place for everybody to play, right? So if you have a driving range and you create 10,000 new golfers there, they can't play anywhere, right? So what are we looking at? I mean, we're talking, so grassroots growing of the sport is fine. I'm all for it. And someone said about getting golf into the schools. You'll create 10,000 players in a year if you start a schools program. Where will they play? They'll leave the sport, right? Unless you create a new sport, which is, let's say, golf, which is played in a football field, right? Using maybe snack golf tools and things like that. So we're still at the stage where we don't have enough space for the players to play, which is why I was talking about developing the existing players who already are there. And now let's take a club, for example, like KG or BGC or whatever. And I think maybe there should be a mandate from the government to say, hey, you have to have a minimum, 200 player junior membership, right? Because the land is actually owned by the government, right? And then they say, okay, fine. And then you're talking about booking slots for players, right? That should be done I think the pressure should come from the government, right? So then that's how they get to keep their land, right? Because the land is leased by so something like that may put some pressure on them to say, okay, fine, we need to open our doors to more, like, I know golf courses who have like Tolly, I think Idris has over maybe 250 players, but are all of them getting to play? I don't know, or and so while we're doing a great job, and the NGI is doing a great job, and the PGI is doing a great job of growing the game and creating new golfers, they are stuck after a while, right? They don't know. So if you're talking about growing the base, we have to grow the base of courses also. Again, that comes to, hey man, that's a lot of money that needs to go into it, because just building a golf course, maintaining a golf course, it is not easy for anybody today, right?
No, that's understood.
Tier 2 cities should be leveraged. And, I think, like I said, if it comes from the center, if the sports ministry said today, we want to create 20,000 new golfers in India because we want an Olympics medal, not in the next 4 years, but the next 12 years. Like, that's where it should start for me, right? And then start building the facilities, put the coaches in tier 2 cities, pay their salaries, give them security that, they will have a job for the next 10 years, right? And also develop the ancillaries around it as well. Like, kids who get into the sport, create an education system. Someone was saying take golf into schools. I'm saying take the schools to the golf courses, right? Why not, let's say, a classic golf course or Tarudhan Valley, have a school built there by the government, right? So that kids can study and just walk to the golf course every day and play on those courses which are not utilized, and have a special rate for them, as Romit said, for juniors, right? Because if you take it to a city school, like say, there's so many schools in Bangalore, I can easily get you 1,000 players in the matter of 1 month. There's no place to play.
Right. Well, I mean, one problem we always face is that we keep thinking about the government should do this and the government should do that. And that's not, that's a very long haul, and it's probably not a road that we should plan. I think we need to figure out how the golf community, like Advertising Standards Council of India, they self-regulate advertisements that the that that industry puts out to the public to make sure that they meet certain standards of truthfulness and objectivity. So why can't the Indian golf community come together and say that we are going to ensure that all our courses reserve 5 tee times every weekend for the juniors to play? Why do we need the government to come and tell us that? I mean, isn't it common sense? All our committee members at the big clubs are very intelligent people, but they probably, nobody has pushed them. Nobody has pushed this point hard enough. I don't know. Tarun, Indrajit?
Well, I've pushed this point a lot. And, we become
Dolly and
enemy
Royal,
number
you
one.
face this. Sorry, what's that?
So I've pushed this point a lot with a lot of golf clubs, right? But they turn around and will tell you that, hey, listen, Tarun, you're asking too much. We can't do this because it's just not possible, right? It is not possible today. You cannot convince a committee member of a golf club to go against the general body, right? If you can do that,
So we need to drive awareness of this need so that the general body tells the committee to do it, right?
Yes.
The average golfer should become aware enough of the need that junior golfers are the lifeblood. And I think this is the moment, right? With the Olympics and Aditi as an example, that we should all get together and start an awareness campaign which convinces club members to tell their committees that we want you to reserve 5 tee times every weekend for the
See,
team.
Rishi, just add to this, it's very difficult in a private club to convince a committee that, why 5, even 3 tee times, like a club which is very busy, whether it's a KGA or a Royal.
But Indrajit, would you really say that the Royal Committee would refuse such a request? On what basis would they say no? How can they say no?
Well,
there are no tee times available.
Rishi, the members who are paying 6,000 rupees a month subscription, plus you're paying 15 lakhs to become a member of a club. So there are challenges, but I think the approach should be a slightly different one. You have 90 acres or 100 acres of land in the middle of a city. I'm talking about the busy golf courses, right? And there are only 500 people who are making use of it. So someday the government's going to come and tell you that, hey, listen, you've got 100 acres of prime land and just 500 people are enjoying that space. So we want 20 acres back and you keep 70 acres for yourself. So the clubs also need to realize that we need to...
That can be a double-edged sword.
No, but we need to make the clubs aware that you also have to have a program where you develop the sport, where you build champions, try to build Olympic champions, so that you justify that space that you are occupying. So it is actually there are certain clubs which have actually been threatened with the land being taken away by the government, and the clubs have actually put forward this reason that we are promoting the game. If you're not promoting the game, the government will say that if the government says I want 10 acres of your land back, and we will pay you an X amount of money, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think definitely, the onus comes back on the clubs, and I hope there's some influential people from clubs listening on this panel, or at least after this, people can go back and talk to their committee members and talk to other members and create this awareness of this need, so that we can, release tee times for juniors on the weekends, as well as, open up the club like 1 day a week for non-members kids to come in and learn and stuff like that. Some time ago, there was this initiative called the India Learn Golf Week, which tried to drive this awareness, at least, amongst various clubs, and it did succeed. I think even a very close club like Willingdon actually instituted a program where they could allow juniors to come in and learn golf. So those kind of things can happen within the organization. So Arun, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a short point. I mean, this is something what all three of them are saying. But I think what we need to do is be innovative, change the formats of the game, maybe have sharing of the space with other sports, maybe have smaller golf courses, which Indrajit alluded to. I mean, no government is going to grudge you 10 acres or 20 acres of land, but they're definitely going to grudge you 150 acres of land in a big city.
Right.
You go to a city like Agra, which is a big city. You go to Agra Golf Club. You can walk in anytime. Any kid can go and play. But no one has exploited it primarily because we also don't have good coaches in that city.
Right.
Someone like Tarun who does a lot of things, or Romit or Indrajit, people who do a lot. People are not there to create this awareness in these places. You can go to Agra and walk in any time of the day. You can have 500 kids playing there every day. Everyone will welcome them.
Right.
When we're talking about some of this arrogance and some of these restrictions, it is only in very, very popular metropolitan golf courses with a history where membership comes with certain amount of pride.
Right.
Sorry for taking another half a minute. If you take some of the ancillary facilities out of these golf clubs, the membership will drop and golfers will get a membership. Very difficult. It will not happen. But even a club like Delhi Golf Club in summers, you have tea times available from 12 to 2 or 12 to 3. It's not that you can't have. So you got to be innovative. You got to think differently than what we have thought for last 100 years.
Okay. So I think, we are running out of time. I'm just going to ask Romit to say one final thing. I know Romit has a point, but we can't get off the subject without talking about attempts to interest schools in golf and inter-school golf, which I'm sure Romit has had some experience with. So Romit, why don't you take us a little bit through that and what you want to say, and then we'll wrap up the session.
To answer your question, Rishi, I did dabble into school golf and training at schools, and I still have a running academy at a school in in Noida. And it's a fantastic project, but the school supported it a lot. This is Genesis Global School, which is Mr. Pontichedda was the founder of, and his son has continued that tradition. And, but it has to be an effort from the school side to put in artificial surfaces, to put in driving range mats, stuff like that, or simulator rooms. Everything has to be put in by the school. It can't be an operator like me putting it in, because we can't really charge a lot.
Sure.
We have to maintain 2 staff members. We can't charge a lot of money either, so the schools are there, it's willing, but as long as it's a win-win for the school has to come in. The school has to put that project, or a private player has to put that money in, but the private schools are the only ones who can do it. And, and inter-school golf, yes, I did run an inter-school league for a while. Very interesting. A lot of people came in, but again, the problem is exams and stuff come in, so you can't run a league through the year.
Sure.
So it becomes difficult with examinations, IGU tournaments, cramp in space. There's no space. If you really want to schedule junior golf tournaments today in Delhi, I would be lucky to find 2 weeks free from today to December, because there is no space. Everybody's just blocked up space. Everybody's doing a tournament. IGU's got about 12 tournaments announced in the next 12 weeks. So we don't know where we're going. But coming back to that point, you're absolutely right. We must drive in this thing of getting kids to play at golf courses. We must get them into the system. Otherwise, it won't happen. And the other thing I can assure you from my side, as president of PGA, we will definitely create the PGA mentors to drive this whole thing together. Because like you said, if it's a small club in Orissa, I will make sure that the PGA mentor who's there is adequately informed and educated to drive that program. Because that's where it's going to come from. Rishi, you and me know at the first touch, it's the most important touch. So if we can get the guys in at that first touch, we half the battle is won, and then the clubs come in with the other half of the battle, and that's where we're headed.
And I think we should not forget recreational golfers. I mean, everything on excellence will not work.
Absolutely.
So you need to have recreational golfers. That's how the base will grow. Every cricketer in this country was not Sachin Tendulkar.
True.
Guys, I know we are all so passionate about this subject. We can carry on for another hour if they would give us time, but we've run out of time now. Tarun, you seemed like you wanted to add a closing remark, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah. So I mean, we're hosting the South Zone Junior Golf Tournament, which is next month, right? And so George, who's the promoter of the club, has actually closed the club for 5 days, 2 days for maintenance and 3 days for the thing. Now already the small minuscule membership that's already there is starting to ask questions like, why is he closing the course? Why does it have to be done? Right? Obviously, we decided that it's going to be done. Now, do you think George can continue this tradition when the 18 holes are ready and it's a popular golf course? Maybe, because this is a private club and he can take a call because he's the boss, right? And KJs who are dependent on the membership and their votes, it's not easy to do something like that. But I've always had this idea that why not in every city we have a 9-hole golf course only open to juniors and people under 21 years old, right? Not anyone else. I mean, I know recreation also is an important thing that Arun had said, but why not? Let's get innovative. Let's have every city has one 9-hole golf course only for kids or maybe national level players, or so that it's only that crowd that's there and they know they have a place to go, right? And recreational golfers, I do believe we need to create a space for them as well. And why I'm saying this is because I feel even the recreational golfer today, who's a top corporate guy, gets a chance to play. It's the junior who's suffering, who gets kicked off the first tee box and sent home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. It's been, I think, a very stimulating session. We're all ready to get out there and, and hit the next committee member on his head, drive our point home. But we're going to sign
Just
off now.
one more request to
Thank you very
Vijit and his team. When he gets such a passionate panel together, please give us at least 3 hours, not 30 minutes.
So,
Next time, 2022.
so thanks very much, Arun, Tarun, Indrajit, Romit, and thanks to everybody who's put the show together. Really enjoyed it. Thanks
Thank
for
you
sharing
all.
your insights.
Thank you all. Thanks, Rishi. Thank you.
Rishi.